+1 de ce RMT Alimentation Locale. Ce matin, pour introduire la journée qui nous rassemble aujourd'hui dans cette salle du conseil et qui nous amènera à faire des visites cet après-midi, il s'est passé, je vous raconte un peu mon matin, parce qu'il s'est passé un truc un peu chouette qui résonne de notre journée et j'avais envie de vous le proposer. Alors, je suis de la campagne rennaise, mais pour le RMT, j'ai dû dormir à Rennes. Et parce qu'on fait des visites, je devais conduire une voiture. J'ai donc pris cette voiture, j'ai mis ma radio préférée du matin, France Culture, et je tombe sur un reportage de la rédaction sur la ferme du Turfu, ferme même dont nous aurons un témoignage cet après-midi. Le hasard était magnifique, et donc j'avais envie de vous partager ce petit reportage qui dure 3 minutes quelques. Et donc, avec Christophe en régie, on vous présente ce petit reportage, Repenser le modèle agricole et l'aide alimentaire.
7h12, la suite du journal de Mathilde Ansker, le reportage de la rédaction qui nous emmène ce matin dans la banlieue de Rennes.
Oui, c'est là que s'est implantée la ferme du Turfu, la ferme du futur en bon français. Elle s'est installée après avoir remporté un appel à projet de la ville il y a 2 ans. C'est une exploitation de plus de 7 hectares, autogérée, solidaire, avec un modèle coopératif. L'ambition de ce projet, c'est de mieux rémunérer les maraîchers et favoriser la solidarité locale. Estelle Caméraire nous l'a fait découvrir.
Ces jours de récolte à la ferme du Turfu, 1 heure à peine après le lever du soleil, les bénévoles ont déjà les mains dans la terre, ou plutôt dans les choux.
Il n'y a pas de pesticides, il n'y a pas d'engrais dans la terre.
Depuis son arrivée en juin, Lucien vient tous les jours sur l'exploitation. Cet ancien éleveur de volailles dans le Gers a toujours été passionné de jardinage.
J'ai vu toutes les récoltes petites et au fur et à mesure je les ai vues pousser, récolter.
Est-ce qu'il y a un peu une fierté quand vous mangez ce que vous avez récolté?
Tout à fait, oui. Oui. Puis surtout quand j'en parle avec d'autres personnes, que je dis vraiment que c'est une ferme bio de chez bio, on est fiers de nos récoltes. Ce qu'on fait là actuellement, c'est pour distribuer ce soir à tous les coopérateurs.
Qui viennent récupérer leur panier de légumes de saison, 9 € le petit ou 16 € le grand. 56 paniers sont prévus en tout. Le reste de la récolte revient à l'association Cœur Résistant qui bénéficie de 80 kg de légumes par semaine.
Quand les maraîchers ont monté le projet, Victor et Martin se sont associés avec Cœur Résistant.
Aux côtés de Lucien, Leslie coupe les racines des choux, sécateurs à la main.
C'est une association qui fait des maraudes et qui s'occupe de l'aide alimentaire. Et en plus de Cœur Résistant, du coup, effectivement, il y a des coopérateurs. On est à peu près 80 aujourd'hui. Pour être coopérateur, c'est acheter une part qui est de 10 €. Et donc, ça vous donne l'opportunité d'être bénévole. Vous faites partie aussi de cercles qui vous permettent d'être à la gouvernance de la ferme et donc de prendre les décisions avec les maraîchers. C'est vraiment tout le monde qui peut gérer la ferme en fait. On travaille avec la terre au rythme des saisons. Ça me sort un peu de tout ce qu'on peut voir en entreprise où il y a toujours de la surproductivité, il faut toujours en faire plus.
Ici, pas de surproductivité, ni même de taux horaire. Les coopérateurs travaillent à leur rythme tout en apprenant à être autonomes pour soutenir les 2 maraîchers.
Et les radis, j'imagine qu'il faut les laver aussi là. Il faut vraiment passer le collectif toujours avant. Ils s'assurent de ne pas être trop présents. Bien sûr, ce sont eux les référents sur la ferme. Enfin, j'ai toujours besoin de demander à l'un ou l'autre si c'est ok ce que je fais parce que c'est eux les maraîchers. Mais ils essayent vraiment de ne pas être trop imposants.
L'un d'eux, Martin, fait sa récolte de radis dans son coin et supervise si besoin le travail des bénévoles. À plusieurs, tout est plus joyeux et bien plus rapide.
Les maraîchers ne peuvent pas porter la charge de bosser 70 heures pour gagner 500-800 € par mois. Ce modèle, on le réfute. Enfin, nous, clairement, on ne veut pas le faire. On ne va pas se sacrifier pour faire ça. Donc là, dans ce modèle, ça peut marcher. C'est vrai qu'on a beaucoup d'aide parce qu'on a des urbains qui habitent pas loin et qui ont un certain besoin de ces espaces, justement. Dans les points forts de la ferme, on dit que le maraîcher doit être rémunéré. Et donc, on ne veut pas se donner de moins de 1 500 € par mois.
Une rémunération rendue possible grâce au système de panier, aux aides à l'installation et à des emprunts. Ces chiffres contrastent avec la situation actuelle des agriculteurs. En France, 18% d'entre eux vivent sous le seuil de pauvreté, avec en moyenne 859 € par mois, selon l'INSEE. Et si le deuxième maraîcher est absent aujourd'hui, c'est qu'il s'est accordé des vacances pour la première année de récolte. Le but de la ferme du Turfu est de repenser le bien-être paysan, mais pas que.
On veut repenser l'aide alimentaire parce que c'est surtout la grande distribution qui surproduit, qui redonne ça à l'aide alimentaire sous forme de défiscalisation ou autre. Et nous, on pense que tout le monde a le droit de manger bien, que les gens qui n'ont pas vraiment beaucoup de moyens puissent avoir des légumes de qualité.
Un projet qui fonctionne mieux encore que ce que Martin et Victor espéraient. Une liste d'attente a été mise en place pour les aspirants collaborateurs, puisque la ferme ne produit pas assez. L'objectif d'ici 4 ans est de remplir 100 à 120 grands paniers de légumes.
Le reportage d'Estelle Caméraire.
Voilà, c'était donc le reportage de la rédaction de France Culture de ce matin. C'est le hasard qui fait ça. Et donc, pour celles et ceux qui sont de la visite 5 à Transfarm Earth, eh bien, vous aurez l'occasion de rencontrer Martin, qui a été évoqué dans ce reportage et qui est donc de la ferme du Turfu et qui pourra mentionner aussi le travail avec cœur résistant. Donc voilà, le hasard fait bien les choses. Je passe la parole à Ludovic pour faire le lien, qui passera la parole à Yuna, qui lancera cette première table ronde de notre deuxième matinée pour faire écho à ce reportage.
Merci, bonjour à tous. Bonjour à ceux qui sont arrivés aujourd'hui et qui n'étaient pas là hier. Donc hier, on a déjà travaillé toute la journée. On a pu retracer tous les travaux qui ont été balayés depuis 10 ans maintenant sur le RMT. On a balayé pas mal de sujets sur l'évolution des circuits courts, comment maintenir leur pérennité, la recherche, comment l'enseignement peut aussi s'emparer, l'enseignement agricole, comment s'emparer aussi des circuits courts pour former les futurs porteurs de projets. La logistique, enfin il y a plein de chantiers à mener et du coup ce matin ça va être aussi vers les chantiers à venir. Et ça fait plaisir ce reportage sur France Culture ce matin parce que du coup nous à la FR620 Bretagne on accompagne des groupes d'agriculteurs et aussi de citoyens dans la transition agroécologique et notamment dans l'installation transmission. Donc c'est l'exemple de la ferme du Turfu, c'est des fermes qu'on accompagne et c'est un travail de fond qu'il faut mener, que nos assos mènent depuis déjà plusieurs années pour accompagner les nouveaux porteurs de projets dans leur installation. Mais aussi, il y a beaucoup d'agriculteurs qui vont partir en retraite. Et c'est surtout, on s'attaque aussi à la transmission, c'est-à-dire d'accompagner les agriculteurs en fin de carrière dans leur projet de cessation de la ferme, de transmission de la ferme, pour éviter que ces fermes-là partent à l'agrandissement et qu'elles peuvent servir à de nouveaux projets, parce que il y a plein de modèles à réinventer. Et donc ça, on a là, du coup, l'exemple de la ferme du Turfu qui est bien soutenu par Rennes Métropole. Ça met en lumière que les collectivités, elles peuvent être très facilitatrices pour faire émerger ces projets. Que ce soit des métropoles comme Rennes ou des communes rurales. On le voit sur le pays de Dinan où des élus, ils font de la veille foncière. Ils ont des terrains qu'ils avaient acquis pour des zones artisanales ou commerciales ces projets n'ont pas vu le jour et donc du coup ils ont installé des agriculteurs sur ce terrain-là. Toujours sur Dinan, il y a une association qui s'appelle les Jardins Solidaires du pays de Dinan et qui fait un travail formidable. Donc ils ont mis en place des jardins où il y a des encadrants techniques et les bénéficiaires de l'aide alimentaire participent aux travaux sur la ferme et repartent avec des légumes et tout le surplus, parce que c'est une ferme ce sont des jardins super productifs. Ils fournissent l'aide alimentaire du pays de Dinan. Donc chaque collectivité peut à son échelle participer à l'émergence de ce type de travaux. Donc je laisse la parole à Yuna. Merci.
Merci Ludovic, bienvenue à tous, donc bienvenue dans cette deuxième journée. Donc à la première journée, hier, nous étions plus de 150 avec une quarantaine de personnes connectées, un peu moins de monde aujourd'hui, mais vous êtes encore déjà très présents et bienvenue, surtout à ceux qui nous rejoignent. Ça va être encore une journée incroyable. Je pense que vous demanderez, ceux qui étaient là hier, ils se sont beaucoup ennuyés, je crois, n'est-ce pas ? Ouais, c'était vraiment. Non, on a essayé justement, et encore merci vraiment à l'équipe d'organisation, à Rennes Métropole qui nous accueille dans ces formidables locaux. Voilà, donc il est important ce reportage parce que justement, et c'est ce qu'on essaie de travailler dans le RMT, on n'oublie jamais que les circuits courts sont d'abord une activité économique, Mais il y a plusieurs façons de penser et d'organiser l'économie. On essaie justement de voir à quelles conditions cette économie, elle est aussi porteuse de liens sociaux. Elle crée un lien fort avec l'environnement, l'écologie, le territoire. Et bien sûr, sans opposer les modèles, et toujours dans cette idée de coopération territoriale, donc avec à la fois des agriculteurs, mais bien sûr des artisans, des restaurateurs, des consommateurs, des collectivités, donc des nouvelles formes d'alliance aussi et de coopération. Donc on a pu justement aborder tous ces sujets. Et on va voir comment maintenant, comment ça se passe ailleurs. C'est toujours très intéressant, très important de regarder ce qui se passe aux portes de chez nous, ou un peu plus loin. Et on va voir que on peut avoir des problèmes communs, des solutions à partager, et puis aussi finalement mieux comprendre ce qui fait nos atouts, comment la France aussi a une carte à jouer finalement, mais tout en regardant vraiment ce qui peut nous enrichir. Donc je vais inviter les collègues du projet, enfin les partenaires du projet Cornet à donc venir ici. Eh bien, on se met comment? On se met là, peut-être asseyez-vous, debout. Voilà, les micros sont là, donc on va essayer justement d'organiser alors cette petite table ronde donc destinée à regarder. Alors Cornet, c'est donc un projet européen. Fédélé nous présentera ce projet plus largement, donc un projet en fait de réseau qui veut mettre en réseau les conseillers au développement des circuits courts à travers l'Europe. Mais avant ça, avant la présentation du projet Cornet, on va faire un flash sur quelques pays, sachant que le projet Cornet, justement, son but, c'est vraiment d'avoir des représentants, enfin des partenaires dans les 27 États membres. Donc une grande ambition. Ça avance et Fédélé vous en parlera. Mais là, on fait un petit flash sur quelques pays et je vais donc leur poser 3 questions, voilà, les amener à échanger avec nous autour de 3 questions. Donc, je vais passer à l'anglais. Vous avez normalement un casque, si ce n'est pas le cas, donc à l'accueil. Donc, pour ceux pour lesquels ce serait plus simple de suivre l'anglais par casque. Et puis sinon, voilà, donc vous allez voir mon magnifique anglais pour les autres. OK. Do you want to say a few words before? No. Why not? Yes, you can. We need a chair.
Yes, I can bring a chair.
You can say like that.
If you need.
Yeah. So let's start. Yes. So thank you so much. Perhaps so I will invite you to introduce you when I give you the floor. And my first question is for you to ask you if in your country there is an official definition of short food chain and maybe some figures, some data to say how important are they in your country. So, Rafael, perhaps you can start.
Hello everyone. Good morning. My name is Rafał Serafin. I'm from Poland, from Kraków in Poland. So I'm going to speak to Poland. In Poland, we do not have a definition of short food chains. There was an attempt to develop one, but which I was involved in. But the minister decided that we didn't need one because there is an EU one. So for the purposes of distributing money under the cap, the definition that's adopted by the European Union is used. This has actually created an opportunity because there's a lot more flexibility, because not all short food chains in Poland receive funding from the European Union. And I'll say something about that. The other thing I'd like to signal in terms of definitions and the influence of the Cornet project is that under the Cornet project, as an inspiration from you here in France, we developed a charter. And one of the motivations was, from the perspective of our country, is that the concept of short food chains is now being used by supermarkets and arrangements that do not include farmers. So the most important thing in the charter, and we use this in Poland, is to say that in fact farmers are a key part of short food chains. If you have a short food chain that does not include farmers, then from the perspective of Cornet, it's not a short food chain. Okay.
Great. And maybe we can now switch to Austria.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Christian Jochum. I worked for more than 30 years for the Austrian Chamber of Agriculture, of which I dedicated more than 20 years, especially on the issue of short food supply chains. In Austria, we do not have, we use in practice not the term short food supply chains, that's more or less in a Brussels definition. We call it direct sales, agricultural direct sales, where we have necessarily definitions on the one in taxation legislation. We have some for social legislation. We have for fundings. We have one for marketing purposes. But like in France, with a separate law, nothing similarly exists in Austria. Regarding the relevance of direct sales from farmers directly to consumers or with one intermediary, as the EU definition says, we did a survey in 2022 where 28% of all Austrian farms are doing direct sales, which come up per average of 1/3 of the agricultural income, which is quite a lot. But which has to be understood is that within this share of 28%, we have a stable group of, we call them intensive direct sellers, where the contribution to the income is much higher. We did a similar survey 2016, and we found that the absolute figures and the relative share has remained stable for this intensive group. So they have specialized, they have professionalized, but we have a separate group which we call extensive direct sellers. This group has declined. The definition of the intensive group is that more than 10% of agricultural income is coming from direct sales. What's also interesting, that an increasing share of farms are officially, from their subjective perspective, are interested in stepping into direct sales. So there is a search for alternative income sources, and in practice, many discover that direct sales is one possible solution.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Spain.
Hello. Okay, thank you very much for inviting us, Yuna, and the whole Coronet team. I'm Patricia Mora. I come from the sister project of Coronet, which is You for Advice. We are doing very similar work with looking for a network of advisors in the whole of Europe. Advisors specialized in the short food supply chain. That's what we're looking for. And this is because we are trying to, we think the advising system is very important for the short food supply chain survival. About Spain, we are in a very similar situation as Austria, but with different figures, because you know, Spain is very big and and we have a lot of regions that are very independent. So the variety of situations is very high. Also, there is a problem with the definition of what we understand as short food supply chain in our projects, because in Spain as well, we understand there are few regulations that are helping or in identifying direct selling, and that implies selling to market, selling directly in the farm, selling to to consumers directly, or a group of producers selling together. But it doesn't include anything to do with selling to, for instance, schools, or selling to small shops, or selling to, there's a lot which is out of that definition that we understand is also a short food supply chain. Therefore, figures are not very reliable, and what we're trying to do from the team of You for Advice, we have somebody who should be here instead of me, which is Jorge. He's been working on this for a long time. We're working on a survey, a national scale survey, to try to identify better what are the real figures of the existent short food supply chain and their impact in economy and the community, but also the interest of short food supply chain in the future. What I can say is that we have a majority of direct selling in Catalonia and Andalusia, much more than in other regions, and that there are also a lot of experiences coming from the towns, from the big metropole cities, with consumers pushing, and that the COVID, for instance, did an incredible boost of this kind of selling. But again, when the COVID came finished, we saw that there was quite a descent. So we're quite worried about the vulnerability of this kind of choice. We understand this as a choice both for consumers and for farmers. And we also perceive that there's a lot of interest by this society. But at this stage, we have a lack of data, a terrible lack of data, and therefore a very inconsistent way of working through regulation, because without the data, it's very difficult to convince anybody to change any barrier or any problem that we might find to develop this kind of model. So basically, this is what I can say. There's about, we understood that there's about 20,000 producers in a whole, but this is an estimation done with both official figures and some surveys.
Yeah, and yesterday we discussed about this lack of data. It's also important in France, and hopefully, not hopefully, it's a European issue. So let's go to Romania now.
Thank you. I am Judith Molnar. I am coming from Romania, the Hungarian part of Romania, and I am very pleased to be here, so thank you. We are in a very similar situation like Poland. We do not have a definition for short food supply chains, but you have to know that we have the most small producers in Europe, more than 2.5 million, which is decreasing day after day. It's a pity thing. They have up to 2 hectares of land, and they are producing for themselves and also for the market. We do not have figures for short food supply chains, and only the Agency for Financing Rural Investments has a requirement for short food supply chains. I'm doing my PhD studies in short food supply chains in secular land in this part of Romania, which contains 3 counties out of 41. And according to my research, we have 145 short food supply chains registered in our region. And if I'm doing a calculation, I can say that maybe in Romania there are around 2,000 of short food supply chains registered, but it has to be much more than that, because most of limited companies and family farms are not using this definition, so they are just selling their products. And this is from my part.
Okay, thank you. And Fedele for Italy.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Fedele Colantuono. I'm from the University of Foggia in Italy, Apulia region. So I'm also involved in the CORENET project. And I can say that from the Italian situation, short food supply chain is quite well developed. Although in terms of regulation, a few years ago, this was more based on a regional level. So every region had the freedom to regulate the aspects on local food production and marketing. But since 2022, our Italian Ministry of Agriculture has released officially a law that is promoting and valorizing the local products. Indeed, in this law, there is also very in-depth definition of 0 kilometers products, very related to the place where they are produced and at the same time consumed or buy. And the other definition is a short food supply chain, where according also to the European definition, it is foreseen one intermediary between the producer and the consumer. So we hope that after this law, all the regions will adapt to this and will follow the main frame of this law, because this law is also promoting the local production with a logo. So they want to have a national logo that can be used in the markets. And moreover, the cities are asked to dedicate in their local market a percentage of area, like 30% of the whole market, to local farmers, to give them more visibility for their products. And also for public procurement. This is an important aspect because, for example, schools, canteens are asked to find a local producer where they have to buy ingredients for the menu of the school. So in this sense, there is a positive impact. And in terms of numbers and figures, I also have to say that it is not easy to find a very good information on the percentage, on the numbers. I found some information from, for example, Italian Farmers Association, where they mention that the registered farms for the direct sale are, for example, in a certain percentage, and from 2024, the percentage of the production of agri-food goods were 20% sold on local markets. So this is an average compared to the whole production, because Italy has a very high production of agri-food products, but the same farm maybe is selling directly or is also selling to larger distribution or for exportation. So it's not so easy to find some good and reliable data. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So maybe a second question and final question, because of course we will open the floor to your questions. Maybe you can just, you already said few words, but what are the main short food chain in your countries? How it has evolved in the last, over the last 10 years? And maybe a few words about the obstacles. Obstacles, you mentioned regulation, but it could be also an interesting regulation like in Italy. And just to, few words from you, and we will leave the floor to the participants. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, hello again. Well, in Poland, I didn't mention the figures, but we are second to Romania in terms of the numbers of farmers. So we have, in the last census, around 1 million. And the Polish food agri-miracle is 5% of those farmers. So we have the 1,000-hectare farms, which are probably as good as anything you have here in France, with helicopters and high-tech and all of that. And that's the miracle. That's what's made Poland the 6th largest food producer in Europe, mostly export. But the other 95% are small farmers. So in my region, there are, the average size is 4 hectares, often in 10 different parts. So there's a large regional variation. But if you define short food chains as buying directly from the farmer, you can do this almost everywhere in Poland. We are seeing food deserts now arising, but so it's pervasive. In terms of figures, much of this is informal, in the informal economy, and this is because in Poland we have a dual tax system. We have a system for farmers and then a system for everyone else. And we're the only country in Europe that has this. The consequence of this is that farmers until 2017 were not able to process and sell their food directly to consumers. To do this, they would have to set up as businesses and lose all their agri privileges. So essentially, until 2017, the politics driven by the European Commission was that if you're not a viable farm, the 10 hectares and the economic definition, then you have to go. So there was money to take people out of agriculture, and in Poland, the local action groups, which are important for short food chains in many other countries, were unable to participate in any short food chain type of initiative. The role of local action groups was to take people out of agriculture. So you could become a mechanic, but you couldn't set up a processing facility. So all this changed in 2017 after some years of campaigning. And it changed not because of the campaigning, it changed because of the politics that we have. Rural areas are mostly on the right side of the political spectrum because they have been ignored. So most of these 90% have been invisible, these people. And the left side, if you like, are the cities. And the politics has made essentially, has initiated legislation, 2017. So this was a key moment which brought in a legislation which allowed farmers to process and sell their food directly to consumers. So it was a special tax category that was introduced as an interim measure, because ideally everyone should be in the same tax system. But that's too difficult to get through the political system. But it marked the beginning of government support and recognition that short food chains are important. So we now have in the EPI Agri program many short food chain initiatives and projects like Cornet. And just a final thing that's happening is that where is all the energy coming from now? And it's coming from the cities. So my city, Krakow, has adopted food policies, partly because of politics, partly because of the war, and also the experience of flooding and COVID, where supermarkets were empty. And so it's the general kind of consumer citizens of Krakow would agree that it's a good idea to have some farms close by. So the framework has changed recently.
In Austria, we are lucky that since ever we had a specific taxation on agriculture, which always included products sold directly to consumers. But what we as Chamber did in the last decades, we negotiated to enhance the threshold which is allowed to keep turnover coming from processed food and direct sales as part of primary production in agriculture, including social legislation. The bigger challenge was to reach, but I think we were quite successful in this field, that due to food safety and food legislation, smallholders, may they be agriculture farmers or artisanal workshops, that they have some exemptions where we, together with the Chamber of Commerce, negotiated immediately after the publication of the so-called hygiene package in 2004, that all kinds of smallholders fall into different categories of exemptions, where we are had to struggle permanently to keep this exemption, because it was and is always a tendency that due to discussions on food safety, etc., authorities and food inspectors think that this cannot be. Looking at the official statistics on food controls, we have official statistics since 2011. Since this first publication, the smallholders are always by far the best group. Better than retail, better than industry, better than gastronomy. So there is no need to change this system of exemptions and reducing red tape and laboratory tests, etc. The challenges in practice on the farms is a lack of labor force. Traditionally, direct sales are an alternative for farms with a few hectares, enough labor force, maybe in a remote area. And what we see that the families where they have 5 and 6 children available on the weekend and the older generation working for free, etc., is diminishing. So the professionals more and more employ people, like in the so to say artisanal world, and a lack of profitability, because a direct seller has 3 jobs. He or she is primary producer, processor, and marketer. And on the 3rd place, there is all this abundance of legislative requirements like food legislation, although we reach to reduce them quite a lot. Looking at distribution channels, by far the most important channel is sales at the farm gate. Then we have delivery services, which have increased in the past years, also because of COVID. But the most important increase was for vending machines, self-service boxes, and a tendency which is positive, but it took years to start this direction, is cooperation with gastronomy. We see that more and more restaurants take it as part of their marketing strategy to declare where the raw material and the ingredients are coming from. There we see some initiatives of farmers' cooperatives which deliver directly to gastronomy or also to public procurement.
I don't remember the questions, Yuna.
What are the main short food training and how it has evolved, and what are the barriers?
Okay,
thank you.
It's quite a few questions in one, I think. But what I can say about Spain is that we don't really have, that's one of the problems, is that we don't have a breakdown of what the kind of direct selling is properly done. So we don't really exactly know how much is sold in one way or another, but typically the most often we have selling through cooperatives, direct cooperatives of the producers in the cooperative shop. That's the most extended. We also have a lot of on-farm selling, and one of the main, I would concentrate a little more on what are our barriers, because we have now, with the figures we have, which as I say are not very reliable, understanding that we are producing about less than 1% of the production is on direct selling. And we do really think, with studies that have been done through these projects, that we can reach a 6% easily with a good promotion and also a good just recounting of monitoring of the situation. But as I say, this is just wishful thinking up to now, and now we're trying to work with the ministry already in a project which came up from the work we've been doing in Youth for Advice and Coronet, on trying to establish a little bit more what is the real barriers that the producers are having, that the exploitations are having to to sell, and definitely we have the same, well, obviously a worse situation than Austria, because Austria has a relaxed, a kind of very interesting and replicable, I would say, regulation on hygiene, and we don't, so we have to comply with the hygiene regulations with the understanding of whoever is the technician who's applying the regulation in that region, because we have regionalized system. And that means it's not so much a problem of the regulation itself, but the understanding of what should be the applicability, how we should apply that regulation. So we think we should be working on maybe training technical hygiene experts, and also working a little bit more on the common infrastructure that is needed for some of the sales. I mean, most of our channels, a lot are coming from the meat and dairy, and they need infrastructure and hubs, and that is something that can be easily provided by the public administration, and that could be something that we could fight for, we could try to work on. If it's not completely covered through administration financing, it could be at least promoted that we have common or joint infrastructures. For us, it's very important. The abattoir, the different processing now is a real problem. There's very big players in Spain. I suppose it's the same in France, but big players in Spain have a very strong position in everything that is decided, especially in the agricultural policy, and everything that is decided at the rural level is taken into account very high interests of big players. It's very difficult to move forward with the typical farm, which is working with short food supply, that we do know. We have identified the profile. It's mostly people who have a smaller farm, and they also have typically more female participation especially in the marketing. And we also have seen that they have less resources to apply, more workforce, but with less viability. So all this makes it very, very vulnerable. And we understand that the vulnerability of this kind of model is something that we need to work on. We need to see to find solutions. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you. If we are talking about Romania, there are very interesting food safety regulations in Romania, because for direct selling and for selling through shops, you need different authorizations, which I cannot understand, but this is. And we are talking about direct selling. It's selling from farmers markets, village gas stables, and community-supported agriculture, but also selling to restaurants is considered direct selling. The biggest problem in Romania is that we have a huge Facebook trading, which means around 70% of the local food is sold on Facebook, which is black economy, and it's not regulated, and a lot of people are using it. So if we are going to the challenges and problems, this is one of the most important problems in Romania. And the other is the legal framework, because we need the definition for short food supply chains. Maybe we need a very good regulation for food safety as well. So this is.
Yeah, just briefly, our situation in Italy is well diversified, because in terms of direct sales and farmers market, we have very good examples. Primarily, the most common short food supply chain model is the farmers market. So it's in every city, also in the corner of the street, you can find some small stands of local producers that sell their products. But there are also associations, networks of farmers as cooperatives, that they also have shops, so they manage shops in the city. They provide products through the years according to also the demand of the consumers. And after COVID, we have seen an increase in online selling. Some apps, mobile apps have also been developed to promote the online marketing. Another good example is given by agritourism, because farmers are differentiating their activities in different ways. In this agritourism, they can also use, transform, process, and sell their products to consumers. Solidarity purchasing groups, these are also well known. Yeah, so we have a very wide range of examples. In terms of gaps, first of all, is given by regulation, because farmers are requested to reply to different authorization to receive permission to sell or process their product, or for example to let consumer eat on the place, on the site. Also in this sense there is a need of specific food hygienes, etc. A new form is also the own picking, so that the farm is open during the harvest season, so the customers can go and pick directly the products. Also in this sense, there isn't still a regulation, because on one side it could be like a labor force, so it's also good to regulate this aspect. And for some farmers that wants to diversify their activity, there is also sometimes a gap on financial aspects to invest for new machineries, new infrastructure. And another gap could be about the advisory services that farmers need to be educated on some aspects, for example, for marketing, for online marketing, or other aspects that are required by the consumers. So also this aspect is important, and in some situation could represent a gap. Thank you.
Thank you. So we had a few insights from this country, so I will leave the floor to you if you have some questions. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for this very interesting presentation. This is like an introductory...
Catherine, can you introduce you just a little?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's an introductory question. I'm a full professor here in sociology, teaching within the context of an international master in rural development, where we teach place-based development, sustainable development in food and agriculture, and all the, well, the context, the national situation, the data, and also the lack of data in your personal analysis are of very big interest for this kind of students who will be professionals very soon in the same kind of field. So my question is very simple. Where can we read this kind of information and all the productions of the cost projects in order to use it for the students?
I was going to say that the data I'm bringing today is part of a study which is carried out by Fundación Entre Tantos in Spain. It's one of the partners of our project, Youth for Advice, and it's finally going to be released very soon. And there is a lot of information there that is, and a lot of biography, so you can really you can go through a lot of literature there. And everything that some of the things we've been talking about, both the Italian example of regulation, for instance, what's been happening with the 0 kilometer and a lot of the definition of what they've done in Italy, and for instance, the hygiene regulation in Austria, they're going to be part of webinars that we're going to carry out during the following years through our projects for the advisor network, because we want to do a little more focus on what is possible to replicate. Okay, so we hope most of the information you need and most of the data and the documents that might be interesting for your students are going to be available in our projects websites. Both Coronet and You for Advice are sharing a lot of documents and information. We obviously connect better directly with our networks. That's why if you want to be part of the network, we will be very happy, okay? Because that way we can just, send you everything. But if not, then you're going to come to us through the media, social media, or you're going to find them on the web pages. So hopefully everything you need is there. If not, obviously, you can contact us after the meeting, no problem.
Can I just to follow up to your question, as a researcher with students, the other source is within the Cornet project. We have something we call golden cases, which you heard of. But what they really are, these are practical activities that are going on in all these different contexts. There's about 30 of them. And basically, it's a way of accessing the world of that particular short food chain. So it's Portugal and Poland and other places. And it's an opportunity to mine these cases. They are deliberately selected as learning resources. So you could get your students to look at these cases. They're all on the website. There's about 30 of them by the end of the project. And then you can interact with the project, because while the project is still going, we're building this network. So it's a way of accessing a lot of information, which we in the project will not really analyze. So I think it would be very interesting to have you look at that in some way.
Yeah, Fedele will present some slides about Cornet project just after. So, but maybe before, two, 3 questions. Oh yeah.
I take the question from people being on the internet. So we have 2 questions. Firstly, do the speakers have data about if agricultural products sold by food chains are cheaper for customers in comparison with the same products selling from other wholesalers or big retailers? And in the case where there are more intermediaries between first producers and final customers. Is the question clear? Yes. It's from Evgenia Borisova.
In the case of Austria, as I'm, so to say, long experienced, we do not have official figures, but what I can say, that 30 years ago, selling at the farm gate was big quantities, cheap prices, half a carcass of a pig, 5 liter of apple wine, a car trunk full of 2 liter wine bottles, etc. So a kind of factory outlet at the farm gate. In the meantime, it has turned, I wouldn't say to a specialty level, but due to higher fixed costs, smaller quantities, improving the quality, and also changed consumer habits, the prices at the farm gate in practice are at least on the same level than in supermarkets. So if people, because of prices, are looking for food at the farm gate, that's the wrong strategy. And nevertheless, and we did a lot in price in calculation, etc. And nevertheless, in many cases, the prices are not covering really the costs. Although for these smallholders, the prices are higher than in the supermarket.
Yes, I wanted to say something like that, because it's what we find in over there is that even though prices are not much lower in direct selling, they're not always covering the costs, because price building is one of the most difficult tasks for these kind of models, and it's probably one of the ones that needs more assessment and needs more advising. That's one of the things we would really like to focus on, because you find people who are struggling, and they've been struggling for a long time, and then they finally just, come out of the model because they're just tired. And mostly it's because of this. It's understanding the costs properly, understanding their limits, and understanding the pricing. So we do, one of the, let's say, values of short food supply chain is that it's just, you know, that it's reliable, trustable, but also that it's just for the people. So we don't think pricing should be something that is considered as the main indicator, but it's definitely the case that they have to compete. So they're usually quite doing that by losing profit.
I just want to add that there is another aspect of consuming local products. If you are consuming local products, you are not making as much waste as you are making from consuming supermarket products.
Just a few words from me. In Poland, I think the key, it's important to distinguish between one to many, where there's one farm and many consumers, and you have many good examples in France of this, and we have some in Poland, but the future lies in many to many. How do you get many small farmers to connect with many consumers? And this is the logistics challenge, which we talked about. It's also the costing challenge and so on. And I think in Poland what we are seeing is I think the question should be reformulated, because it's, of course, the price is lower in the supermarket with all the subsidies and marketing and everything else, and industrial food. That's the whole idea. So it will always be cheaper. But tomorrow, the price will be different. And this is because the supermarkets are fighting to survive just as the farmers are. And they are really now investing in the online marketplace. This is because, as consumers, we buy more and more on the internet. So that's where the market is going. And to what extent short food chain arrangements, these many arrangements, can compete in the internet is, I think, the future. Today people will not just go for price, they go for convenience mainly. And supermarkets are convenient. Short food chains are not very convenient. So how can we make them more convenient? And just as evidence for this, in Krakow, we since entering into the European Union, we've built many malls, shopping malls. You know, we have this obsession with supermarkets and so on, which is now changing. So 2 of the shopping malls in Krakow have applied to close and to turn into office and residential developments, arguing that in fact, because of internet sales, it's no longer as profitable as before. And so I think this is the way to answer the question is, how will we do the pricing and competition 5 to 10 years from now? Maybe it's even sooner, and not look at it in the current situation. Because of course, in current situation, it is always the supermarket which will be cheaper.
Go on.
Just briefly, in Italy, with this new regulation, there is a point dedicated to the definition of prices. So that must be fair for both the producers and consumers, because of course consumers, when buy local fruits, vegetables, they know that there is a history behind. So there is also an aspect about cultural heritage. So in this sense, there is more about quality instead of price. So in this case, consumers are more attentive, and they prefer to spend a little bit more to have something from well-traced production. And I also think that it's important to start with kids at school, to let them know about the importance of eating well and the quality of what we eat.
Yes, and for the second question, it's related to what you meant about us buying things on internet. So Arthur Cristovaro asked, in the case of Romania and maybe elsewhere, what means selling food on Facebook? And I'm personally very curious about it.
We have a lot of groups on the Facebook for selling local food, which is not regulated, which is not taxed, and a lot of people are marketing their products via Facebook, and a lot of people are buying it. So generally there are huge Facebook groups which are dealing with trading of local food. You can access them. You can go on the internet and it's no regulation for them. Nobody is saying you if the producer is registered or not. Yes, this is a problem.
Regarding the internet and Austrian figures, since 20 years, the share of food sales on the internet, covering all types of distribution, including the professionals, the retail sector, is stable at 2%, and it does not grow. What is growing are, so to say, intermediate solutions, like this Facebook. Have a look at the Finnish Reko system. For me, it's a miracle because they have hundreds of thousands of consumers with defined local producer groups selling very simply and directly based on Facebook. But these online shops, also with the survey we had, is on the 7th or 8th place from the farmer's perspective. So other forms where, of course, you need emails, etc., the simple internet things, but not the real online tool.
Okay, so maybe just I have just one last question, and maybe you can answer just one word. Oh, sorry, please. And after, brief question. Thank you.
Oui, bonjour, Guillaume Lebon à la région Normandie. Ma question elle s'adresse plutôt à l'Italie. Vous avez évoqué que le ministère a fait voter une loi pour encourager 30% de produits locaux dans les marchés publics. Concrètement, comment vous faites, puisqu'il me semble qu'au niveau européen, il y a la réglementation européenne interdit cette préférence géographique sur les produits locaux dans les marchés publics.
Oh. Do you want to translate? You said that you have understood? Okay.
Yes, thank you for your question. Well, this national regulation is the frame regulatory law for all regions, because in Italy, every region has power to make new regulations. So in these aspects of dedicating specific areas, the 30% of local market areas to local producers, is because there is a requirement by the municipalities to be more attentive to the local producers. So municipalities have to make sure that in their local markets, that could be daily market or once per week market, there is this area just assigned to the stands of local farmers. And they also ask to provide a logo so that the consumers know that that area is dedicated to local farmers. And local farmers have some incentives to organize their market in this space. I don't know if I've replied fully to the question.
The question was, so the Federalist said that in Italy there is a regulation for introducing at least 30% of products from Italy in public procurement. And he said that it was a surprise because he said that it could be in opposition with the EU regulation. which is not, does not allow the reference to an origin in public procurement.
Yeah, but this comes, the municipalities have made like association of municipalities developing these projects, and in these projects they are looking for local producers to have not the whole furniture, the whole products, but at least the main products that are coming from local, and there are public calls for farmers to apply, so everything is clear and public established.
Okay. Okay. So I will. You want to? Oh no. Yeah. Oh no. No. I'm not sure we have so much time to do this.
We have 2 minutes, and if
2
you
minutes,
ask
so,
a question in French, we'll have to translate them for
Yes.
people being on internet, which not
Okay.
hear the translation.
Please. Yeah.
Alors,
Françoise.
excusez-moi, juste une petite question technique, parce que voilà, j'aurais pu aller la poser peut-être en direct. C'était le fait de quels sont les seuils pour les petites exploitations en Autriche? Vous avez du coup, est-ce qu'il y a des, parce que c'est quoi la petite exploitation? Et donc nous, on a mis très très longtemps en fait à négocier ça en France. Donc c'est intéressant de savoir comment sont ces seuils par rapport aux nôtres. J'imagine qu'ils peuvent être aussi différents selon les pays, mais ça doit être riche d'enseignements, quoi. Voilà.
Christian, so it's the question is about the threshold to define a small-scale farm in Austria.
Yeah, that's tackling food legislation, because in food legislation there is a definition on local small quantities and I think only one intermediary in hygiene regulation. We had a long discussion with our authorities, the Ministry of Health, and at the end we said, looking at the structure of Austrian agriculture, it's not necessary to define that we have a quantity of a number of hectares or a quantity of food. We say by definition that the Austrian farms are by average that small that they fulfill this requirement of small holding. Regarding local, we said as long, and that's a sensitive and critical issue, as long as internet is not used, because internet is World Wide Web, then a farm selling directly somewhere to Austria is local. We have figures that 70% of all sales from a farm are in a circumference of 50 kilometers. So that's still local. And with that figures, the authorities were satisfied and said, okay, we need no further definition, because all other definitions of kilometer, etc., are not really applicable and are just complicated.
Okay, and last question from Stéphane.
Oui, bonjour, excusez-moi, je pose la question en français. Stéphane Linou, expert associé au laboratoire sécurité défense du CNAM. C'est juste pour savoir si dans vos pays respectifs, la reterritorialisation de l'alimentation est vue sous l'angle de la prévention de troubles à l'ordre public pour des questions de sécurité intérieure. Est-ce que c'est une petite musique qui monte chez vous ou pas?
So the question is, you understand, Patricia. So from relocation, of food system, is it linked with something that the idea that lacking food could be an issue for troubles, social troubles, and security troubles in society?
Yes. I understood, and I think it's definitely a new issue coming in Spain. It has obviously been brought by COVID, Ukraine, and all the geopolitical situation we're living in, all the tariff situation, and that has actually, we've seen a trend towards, especially policymakers, more interested in the short food supply chain. So we have seen through the time of our project, which we've been working on for now 2.5 years, there's been a change, a shift of the interest of policymakers in what we're doing. we can see that, and I definitely think it's going to be a future issue. But now, I'm afraid it's very politic. All the food issues and the farming system issues are very politic, and that's damaging a lot the lives of the people who need to, because we are going in a situation, we are in a situation now that is very complicated for the renewal of the farmers' population. People are abandoning farms, basically. They are just leaving the farms because it's not possible to keep working. We even have a problem this year in Spain because we have a lot of forest fire problems, and most of the, or some of, and we don't have figures, but we can see it, most of the problems in the forest fires because of the abandoned lands. So it's a debate in Spain, it's a debate, but I'm afraid, as always, it's coming to a too political debate. I always think that it's better that debates come from the social, the civil society, the people, that we have a little more networks of people who are working on social sciences, people who are researchers, and people who are working in the territory. And that debate will be probably a bit more serious. But now, I'm afraid, it is very polarized, at least in Spain.
For me, just quickly, in Poland, food security has been qualified by the national government as part of our critical security infrastructure, which basically means that the 5% that we have committed to NATO, I think 2% is on equipment and tanks and things like this, but the remaining 3% is on security-related things. So there is this has mobilized interest, especially amongst the cities, which do not have easy access to, it's a new financial resource, but it's also responding to citizens who are asking, well, if we build the shelters, the bomb shelters, which we are doing in Krakow, we're renovating them, what will we eat when the war comes? So that's one thing. The second thing, when it comes to the food security dimension from the municipal perspective, we are not looking to France or Holland, but looking to Ukraine, where there has been a lot of activity in this area. So this is what gets the mayor of Krakow interested. You know, he wants to know how the Ukrainian cities have organized their food systems, or reorganized. So I think this is also something that in Cornet we're looking at as to where the agency comes from.
Okay, thank you. So you will have time during the break to ask also more questions to our European partners. But first of all, just before the break, 5 minutes, maybe you can we can launch the slide for the presentation of the Cornet project. Yeah, thank you, Fedele.
Yes, briefly to recap, because in these 2 days you have heard a lot about Coronet and EU for Advice, which are two projects funded under the Horizon Europe program, with the common aim to develop a European network of advisors in short food supply chain. We are very happy to be here at this stage of your network because we are looking for advisors, and I think you are the best audience for us. So thanks to Yuna and Anne-Cécile for organizing this workshop within your event. So the current project is involving 15 partners from 11 countries. We have a multi-actor approach because in this consortium we involve different background, starting from advisors, universities, research centers, so all those people with background and knowledge on rural development, agricultural economics, and advisory services in short food supply chain. as a requirement from European Commission, we have to cover all 27 member states, and in this sense we have linked our consortium with other entities in those countries where we do not have partners. We call them key national contact points, and now as you can see from the map, all the green countries are covered, so this means that CoreNet is becoming more popular in across Europe. So our approach is to collect information, good practices, knowledge that is coming from the field related to short food supply chain, in particular putting more light on the advisory services, create a community where all stakeholders, in particular advisors, farmers, can learn, can exchange this knowledge, and promote the future establishment of this network that will be long-lasting after the project ends. The project has a 5-year duration. We are now in the middle of our process, and we are already offering some tools, some initiatives to our stakeholders. For example, we are organizing a series of field visits, a workshop, also online, European Roadshow. Indeed, this one in Rennes is our 6th European Roadshow. As said, we collect good practices, but we are also trying to classify these good practices for golden cases. This means that golden cases are really successful examples related to the advisors' support. So we start from understanding the importance of the advisors that is behind a successful farm, and try to make an analysis of this case and extrapolate some key elements that can be replicated in lighthouse projects that then I will show you are new ideas that CoreNet can support. And by the way, we want to have this long-lasting network. So if you are not registered and you are interested to the short food supply chain environment, please register to our database and you will be involved in this European network. You can do it also online. There is a consent form. We also translated this consent form in all European languages to promote the application and facilitate the process. The status at the moment is quite good. We are happy of the advisors that have already registered. We can count on more than 600 advisors, and among those 60 are from France. So we are happy that France is among the most well-represented countries in our database, and we are really taking care of the data that you provide us. Very simply, we ask about your profile, your interest, background, and these information are then transferred online in this interactive map. We are building this map. You can have a look. You can find some advisor from another country that has your same interest, and it's very easy. You can get in touch by email with this person. And the idea is to continue the search for new advisors to enlarge this network. As somebody from you was asking before about our results, our data, we have a knowledge hub that is a dedicated session of the CoreNet website where we are collecting all the results or the information that are coming by our work in the project. Among those, you can find the examples on short food supply chain with golden cases, but also reports, articles, and we still have the results from a former project that was Skin. I don't know if you have ever heard about it. It was the first project funded by the European Commission in 2015. And it was the first project dedicated to a network of stakeholders in short food supply chain. So we opened a path, and nowadays we can count on more projects, but Skin was pioneering this topic of short food supply chain on different aspects. And all the reports, all the interviews, videos that were made in Skin are still available in our repository, just to give you some more information. We have started also this initiative that we call Coronet Agora, that is a series of online webinars. We also want to give them a name like Advisinar, just to well identify this type of webinars dedicated to our advisors. So you can follow us through these events. Follow us also with our news online. We always keep our website updated. An important news, an opportunity for you being an advisor. You can register for Lighthouse Project. That is a funding, so it's an open call. The current project can pay up to 5,500 euros for a new project idea inspired by us. So let's keep in touch, and thanks again. Merci.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So it's time for the break, and one of my last questions was a relation with between short food chain and organic food. But I invite you to discuss this during the break. Okay?
Oui, donc on finit un tout petit peu en retard cette session, et donc pour vous laisser le temps de la pause, parce qu'on était censé reprendre à 25, on va pas vous laisser une minute de pause, donc on vous propose de reprendre à 35 ici. C'est vraiment une petite pause, juste pour prendre une petite boisson chaude, se remettre dedans. Ensuite on enchaînera sur une table ronde. L'idée c'est qu'on finisse vraiment à l'heure pour le déjeuner, puisqu'après on devra partir en visite. Voilà, donc bonne petite pause à toutes et tous. Merci.